On February 25th of this year, there was an incursion of a runway that almost ended up in a disaster. And in my hot little hands right here, I've got the NTSB report about what happened at Midway Airport between Southwest flight and that Flexjet. Let's take a look and review on video what took place. It happens real quick. Watch. Okay, so it happens pretty quickly. Southwest is lined up to land. They get down to 25 feet. They go around. They narrowly miss the Flexjet that has incurred across the runway. This could have been a disaster. It wasn't. The NTSB now has come out with their initial findings on that incident, and there are some shocking things that they conclude. And so stick all the way to the end on this one. Southwest 2504 initiated the go-around. And the Flexjet airplane was Flexjet 560. They were over at Signature Aviation, which is the general aviation side of the airport. When they went around, they were at 25 feet. They started climbing out, as you can see on the video. They missed, in this picture right here, they missed the Flexjet by 200 feet behind them, and they were 175 feet over them. That's really, really close. And it shouldn't have been all of that close. Now, Southwest Airlines, they did an interview with the crew. And they did an interview with the Flexjet crew as well. Let me talk to you about the interview with the Southwest crew first. According to the post-incident statements and interviews, the flight crew of Southwest reported that they were cleared for the approach and everything was normal. They were cleared for the approach to runway 31 center at Midway Airport at 500 feet approximately. By the way, the captain was flying this approach. The captain remained at the controls all the way through the go-around and the subsequent second approach to the same runway to an uneventful landing. At 500 feet, the captain turned off the autopilot. That's pretty typical. Most pilots will turn off the autopilot somewhere around there. You can turn it off earlier than that, but usually no later than about 500 feet. The first officer was the one that was the pilot monitoring. He's watching what the captain is doing. He's looking out, and he said initially that he saw that general aviation jet, as he described it, the Flexjet over at Signature, kind of taxiing out towards the runway. And that's one of the things that a good co-pilot will do. While the captain's kind of concentrating on the runway in front, the other pilot's sort of scanning back and forth, looking for any potential threats. That's what we call them, any potential threats, because you want to capture all of the threats, and he does. He does a brilliant job here. The first officer indicated that after hearing the aircraft audible 100-foot call. Now, what is that? The airplane inside the cockpit has an automated voice, and at 100 feet, it'll say 100 feet, and then at 50, it says 50, 40, 30, 20, all the way down to 10. Next is you touch down on the runway. So it's a nice indication of how high above the runway you are and how quickly you're coming down. At 100 feet, he realized that general aviation, the Flexjet, was not going to stop. Now, there are some things that took place. Ground control had initially given Flexjet instructions to taxi out via Foxtrot and hold short of runway 4 left. And you can see the overview of the airport right here and the route that they took. Now, they told him initially to hold short of runway 4 left. It's not unusual to get instructions as you're taxiing out that give you further taxi instructions. So as they get out onto Foxtrot, then ground calls Flexjet back again and says, now you're cleared to turn left onto runway 4 left, cross runway 31 left, hold short of runway 31 center. This is where all of the confusion came in. The co-pilot on the Flexjet airplane reads back the instructions and gets it wrong. The ground controller clarifies the instructions. Now the Flexjet co-pilot reads it back and he gets it correct. So he reads it back correctly. The loop is now completely closed. They taxi out on Foxtrot. They turn left onto runway 4 left. Now they're actually taxiing onto an inactive runway. Is that common? Yeah, it happens. It's not the normal. Normally you're taxiing on a taxiway until you get to a runway, but sometimes they'll use an off-duty runway for you to taxi to get to another runway. Now, there aren't all the normal markings on those runways because it is a runway. It's not a taxiway. So a hold short line that would be on a taxiway to say hold short of this runway might not be on a runway that you'd be taxiing on. So when they turn left onto 4 left, when they turn left in the interview with the Flexjet crew, they said once our nose got completely onto runway 4 left, we were actually past where there would have been, if there had been any sort of a hold short line saying this is 31 left, the runway that they were cleared to cross. They thought that the runway that they crossed was actually another taxiway because as you can see, it's really skinny. It's a narrow runway. I don't know why Midway has a runway that's that narrow. I don't think they probably use it very much. They probably ought to redesignate it a taxiway. That's just my thoughts on this. So anyways, the crew comes out. They're looking at it. Yep, it's a runway. They miss it. They think it's a taxiway. They think the runway out in front of them, 31 center, is actually 31 left, and they say that. Now, the time of day is hugely important here. It's 8:48 in the morning Central Time, and both pilots usually, when you are cleared onto a taxiway or a runway for that matter, to taxi on it, you're going to look left and right, and you're going to clear, and the pilot on the right is going to say clear right, pilot on the left is going to say clear left. They did that. They went through that whole procedure. As they're taxiing up runway 4 left and they get to 31 center, which remember, they think is 31 left, they think they're cleared to taxi across it. I'll talk to you about how they could have trapped that threat in a minute. They both look left and right, but when the FO looks to the right, the sun is just coming up in the distance. And the sun is right where Southwest is. So he doesn't even see this airplane that's really only at about 200 feet as they begin to taxi on to the runway. Now, the heads-up crew on Southwest or the heads-up FO sees this guy and he thinks he's not going to stop. So at about 100 feet above the runway, he says to the captain, go around. The FO, the first officer, initiates the go around. So let me try to dispel a myth here. It's not always the captain that gives out every command. It's not the captain who generates the go around. Any pilot that sees something wrong will bark out, go around, and the other pilot at the controls doesn't argue. They don't talk back. They simply do it. The reason being, you want to sort it out later on. You don't have time to go, what are you talking about? That's by that point in this case, it would have been too late. So every pilot is trained. If you hear go around from anybody in the cockpit, you initiate the go-around procedures. You talk about it later. I was once in a simulator for one of my annual check rides, and I was paired up with a captain I just met, and they will simulate training where both the FO and the captain have to call a go-around at some time during the session. I didn't know it was coming up, but the captain was coming down, and one of my parameters got out of parameter, and I said, go around. He didn't respond. So I did, in my best outdoor voice again, I repeated, go around. And I thought, and he didn't respond again. I thought, I know what it is. They want me to take the airplane. So I began to grab the controls and I yelled one more time, go around, as assertively as I possibly could. And the captain looked at me and he said, no, I'm fine. At that point, the simulator instructor hit the freeze button. We were at 20 feet above the runway. And he looked at the captain and he said, Captain, he goes, how many years have you been flying airplanes? That's always a bad question on a check ride. And the captain said, 32 years. And he said, every time your first officer says, go around, what do you do? And he said, well, yeah, but I've been, and he said, no, every time, what do you do? And he said, go around, like a question. Well, needless to say, the captain came back for more training. I was okay. I proceeded on. The captain got a couple extra days of remedial training, which is the system's working. So this system worked great. The FO called out a go around. They went around, missed him narrowly, but they missed him. That's the good news about all of this. There was some considerations with the radio calls. So as they were taxiing out and they missed now 31 left and they are about to taxi around across 31 center where the airplane is landing, ground control calls Flexjet one more time and says to them, hold short, hold short, hold short. But it gets blocked by another airplane that's transmitting at the same time. This is so common in aviation. And again, folks, that we need to spend the money in that aviation and airway trust fund to upgrade all of the systems so there's not this much talking on the radio or blocked radio communications at a really critical time. Now, how could the Flexjet crew have avoided this? Well, number one, they could have caught that they already taxied by 31 left. They didn't. They missed that. But when they came up to 31 center, the runway they were supposed to hold short on runway 4 left where they were, there is actually painted a hold short marker. And you can see that in the picture here. There's a hold short marker. And off to the left is a sign that says 31 center. So again, the captain and the FO have one of those on each side of them. They could have seen that that was 31 center they were about to cross, not 31 left. They missed the sign and they missed the hold short as they were taxiing across the runway. So could they have done better with this? Yep. The final investigation will assess blame and all that. I'm not assessing blame. I'm just saying the indicators were there for them to pick up on that. And I don't know what the distractions were. I know the sun was one distraction, not seeing the Southwest jet landing on the runway that they were about to cross. And that is an important factor. All right. I once had an incident where I almost got into a collision with another airplane where the sun was a factor. It was 6 a.m. in the morning out of Boston. We were taxiing straight due east. The sun was just coming up over the tail of a Delta jet that was parked. And it was so bright. It was one of those where you're looking, kind of going, trying to see that is there an airplane up there? And at the last minute, we came to a stop just before we our wing collided with his tail because the sun was right there burning a hole in your head. So this is a common thing. It can happen. It's easier than you think. Fortunately, a great heads up reaction on the part of Southwest. These guys did a great job. So there was a failure, but then there was a success, and that saved the entire day. Kudos to you, my buddies over there at Southwest. Great job, guys, on the go-around. That's it for now. We'll follow up on this one with another video later on as the final report comes out. But now you know. I'm Captain Steeeve. Fly safe.